All right, and welcome to this edition of Mock Ad Hoc, the podcast. I'm your host, Johnny B. I help fantasy owners get prepared for the preseason coming up in August or September. And wait, what is that noise, Dave? What do you got over there? What's going on there? What's that beeping noise?
That is Mattel Electronic Football from, if anybody cared to venture a guess on my game this week. Oh.
Johnny B wasn't alive when that came out.
$6.
I was born in '79.
This is pre-Atari. There's no... Oh, it's so good.
That was pre-Pong, I think.
Pre-Pong. This is little tiny lines. Oh, we can get the end zone.
Touchdown.
Just so you know, Johnny B, every single one of us got one of those for Christmas if we were good or if our parents had enough money. I think 77, 78, something like that. So
77.
You missed out. High technology.
$50 on eBay a few years ago.
And it's just all lights, right? You're dealing with lights in the form of football players?
Little tiny dash dots on defense, and you're one person. It's just the most throwback thing you've ever seen.
Jeez, man, just something to get the time going by to entertain you guys back there in the '70s.
Mattel Electronic Football.
Well, there you have it, and a great way to open the show. Tonight we're going to talk about the top 10 wide receivers. We're certainly not going to bore you on who they are, and you can see them on my board here. But what we are going to talk about is, are they in the right order? And let's just kick it off to you, Quinn, real quick. I mean, tell me a guy on my list right now that you think is in the wrong order so far.
I like the list. I think a lot of people may put Antonio Brown first. I obviously love him, but prior to last year, he hasn't scored a lot of touchdowns. So I like your order. I think Julio may be down a little bit just because of touchdowns. I would probably put Jordy Nelson up where Julio is. And the rest of the list I'm liking. I can't see... Oh, yeah, I definitely don't like A.J. Green in the top 10, 11 there. I would boot him out. Probably put someone else in there, maybe Sanders or possibly T.Y. Hilton or someone like that.
Dave, let's go over to you real quick. Now, he mentioned Emmanuel Sanders. Now, that guy's going ADP on the internet as a 33rd overall pick in the third round. I got T.Y. Hilton going maybe early third round at 27, 28. Comments, Dave?
Yeah, Sanders is probably my 15th overall wide receiver. I don't know that he squeaks into the top 10. A couple guys could fall down. T.Y. Hilton's probably 12 or 13. DeAndre Hopkins, T.Y. Hilton, they're both going to be number one receivers on their team. Obviously, Hilton's got a much better quarterback situation. So, but I have only one concern with Hilton is that he catches the deep ball for the touchdown and sometimes gets 3 catches for 18 yards. Some days it's kind of a boom or bust sometimes, but a lot of potential.
All right. So far, Quinn, you're saying Antonio Brown should be above Des Bryant. How come Calvin Johnson's getting no love this year? Dave, talk to me about Calvin Johnson. I mean, I'm looking right now. His ADP says he's going 16th overall in most mocks. That's second round. Isn't that just like criminal?
Yeah, I'm seeing him higher too. I've got him maybe at 5 or 6, maybe 4. If you like him that much. I like him in front of Odell Beckham Jr. I think I'm not going to draft Odell Beckham Jr. ahead of him because I think he's going to get overdrafted. People are too excited. If he has a huge year, maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe he'll have an average year. But everybody's down on Matthew Stafford, which is what's affecting Calvin Johnson. So it's kind of pushing him down. I thought Golden Tate did a great job kind of filling in while Johnson was hurt quite a bit last year. So I think he comes back and is just right back into Megatron mode. I don't think there's any real gray area there. The dude's a stud.
All right, Quinn, tell me about Calvin. Why is he so not? I don't want to say low, but how come he's not getting the love? And is your boy Antonio Brown is he overrated as number one? Tell me about that.
No, I don't think he's overrated. I do think that the Steelers' stats, whether you include Roethlisberger or Brown, they were overinflated. I mean, as a Steeler fan, the first 5 weeks last year, we were calling for Todd Haley's head. We wanted Mike Tomlin gone. Their offense was inept. They had the two big games against back-to-back against Indianapolis and Baltimore, where Ben threw for 12 touchdowns and almost 1,200 yards, just insanity. So you take those stats out, and really a lot of the Steelers' stats are a little more average. Antonio's the real deal. I think his receptions are going to be there. If you're talking about a PPR league, he's number one guy for sure. He's back-to-back seasons with over 100 catches. I just don't know if the touchdowns are going to be up there. They spread it out. You're going to see the emergence of Martavius Bryant, who caught a touchdown a game for the second half of last year. They have a third-year receiver in Marcus Wheaton, who's becoming a deep threat. Heath Miller gets 6 to 8 touchdowns a year, and then you've got the running backs who are going to get a lot. So I just don't see him as a 10-plus touchdown guy again. He's still going to get 1,500 yards. He's still going to get 100 receptions. So it really depends on the league if you're a PPR or not. But Calvin Johnson, Detroit just had bad offense last year. It wasn't him. He's the best receiver in the NFL, and so he's going to come back, I think, in that top three one way or another. I just can't foresee Stafford being that pathetic again. And one last sleeper who I think's going to crawl into your top 10. He's not going to get drafted in the top 10. Kelvin Benjamin is just a beast with Carolina. And last year I had him on one of my teams. He didn't know how to catch the ball. He didn't know how to run routes, but he works hard. He fights for the ball up in the air, and he's a big guy. So I expect him to be a lot more in tune with the offense and a lot better at catching the ball and running routes this year, and I think he's going to get his stats elevated up to the 13 to 1,500 yards and 12-plus touchdowns because he's just too big for anyone to guard.
So Dave, let's talk about Kelvin Benjamin, a guy who I drafted last year, had a lot of success with. Although this year, I'll give you my humble opinion, I thought a lot of last year was trash time looks, and I don't know what you call it, just sheer luck as a rookie. I don't see him doing what he's going to do last year, but he's going in the third round. He's 3.12 on average. That's pick like 35, 36. Tell me about what your thoughts are on Benjamin.
Well, I think Benjamin's success revolved last year around how healthy Cam Newton was, and he was playing with a bad ankle coming into the season. He was a little nicked all year. He wasn't able to run and back the defense off and create more of those short yardage passing opportunities for Benjamin. So I think what you're going to see is a healthy Cam Newton with a big, fat new contract. He's going to be in the right place. Going into last year, Newton was, a top 5 or 6 quarterback. He's down too. I think he's being undervalued a little bit. I think Benjamin's about right around 12 to 15, but he's going to be a monster. I think there's no doubt. Quarterback will be healthier. He's the number one option in that offense on almost every play. And the more he runs the ball, the more Cam Newton runs that ball back in the defense off, sucking those DBs in, Benjamin's going to get all kinds of opportunities. He's going to be great.
Yeah, and let's move real quick now from Benjamin to kind of the same rookie class and Mike Evans. Everyone's talking about Mike Evans. I got people saying he's better than Jordy Nelson this year on the books. Quinn, talk to me real quick about, is Mike Evans somebody worthy of a Jordy Nelson? Right now, Jordy's going about 20 overall. That's like, early second round, and then you got Mike Evans going 27 overall. Would you take Evans over Jordy, and why?
No, I would not, and it doesn't have anything to do with Evans. It's more about that offense in Tampa Bay. There's a lot of unknowns. You're dealing with a guy who's an incredible talent. He's big, and he's going to get opportunities, but that offense sputters. I mean, some weeks they barely even score any points, so I don't think you're going to have the consistency where Jordy Nelson is just one of those guys you can count on every week. He's going to get the 70, 80 yards, and he's going to score almost every week. I don't put him at that level yet, and it's not because of him. It's because of his offense that he's involved in. The upside to Tampa is, though, they're playing in that division. Chicago has no defense. Green Bay's involved with shootouts. Minnesota's going to have a much improved offense. So Detroit hopefully will have a much improved offense. So I think Tampa's going to find themselves in some higher scoring games, but they do not really have that offense yet where we can depend on him every single week to be a 100-yard guy because they're just too inconsistent.
All right, Dave, let's back to you real quick. Mike Evans over Jordy Nelson. Am I crazy to say that? Because I believe it. I like it this year.
they don't even belong in the same sentence. That's how good Jordy Nelson is. But don't take Mike Evans out of the equation because of that. You got Jameis Winston. He's going to come in and run to throw the ball. They're going to build the offense around him to suit him. He's going to use Evans as his big wide receiver. Nelson is an absolute elite fantasy wide receiver. But don't forget, they're going to be losing. You're going to have a young quarterback who's going to be throwing the ball late. There's a lot of points out there in garbage time for Mike Evans to go along with being a number one target in that offense. The problem will be the running game. If the running game's actually not good, that'll hurt the passing game because you've got to get Doug Martin or the other rookie, I can't remember who that is, going. They've got to have a running game. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to throw the ball consistently.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, I like the opinions. I think that's kind of the consensus is Jordy Nelson obviously is the better play, but I think guys like me who are crazy, I think I'll give you my 2 cents on why I like Mike Evans this year. I just think he's the best pure specimen wide receiver that I've seen in a while, and I like just his pure upside and talent only, just raw skill. I like how he runs. I like how he exploded last year and just had an amazing season, and really no one talked about him. Everyone talked about like what Quinn was saying. Kelvin Benjamin this, Kelvin Benjamin that, catching these one-handed last-minute trash time balls. But Mike Evans was really, I think, the silver lining to the whole rookie class. And so I think this year it's a second year for him, and Winston's going to make him shine. So I'm going to actually go out on a limb here and say Mike Evans breaks the bubble here on my list here and sneaks in there and makes it worthy. Anybody else that we're not mentioning, Quinn, that you can say? Or I know you said Sanders. Who else could break the bubble on this list, conceivably?
It's possible, we talked about Sanders. It's possible T.Y. Hilton. We've seen really an emergence. DeAndre Hopkins, if he gets the opportunities, could potentially be there. And, the other guys are aging. You're looking at the consistent guys, the Vincent Jacksons, the Steve Smiths, the Anquan Boldens. I just don't think are going to get to that level again. And, Vincent Jackson still catches a lot of balls. He didn't have a lot of touchdowns last year. I don't think there. No, not for the pure wide receivers. I think right at this point you're looking at tight ends. If you're in a league where the tight ends are included with receivers, we could get a couple guys in there. But for straight receivers, I think we've got the list there. I don't see anyone else. The only other guy who could possibly get there would be Sammy Watkins. He's got the capability. I just don't know if he's going to get anybody to get him the ball enough to get in the end zone.
Alshon Jeffrey's missing from that list.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely right. Yeah,
Sammy Watkins doesn't have a quarterback yet, so I can't give Sammy Watkins too much love, although I love his abilities and stuff. But, yeah, Alshon Jeffrey's right there at the bottom. I'd have A.J. Green a little higher. I might have Cobb a little lower. Oh, you got Jeffrey in the middle there. Jeffrey's in there.
Yeah.
I've got Jeffrey more like 10 instead of 7.
Yeah, Jeffrey's going about number 25, 26 in most mocks, right? You got to throw in the rest of the fantasy crop with receivers and tight ends and running backs. Talk to me about Jordan Matthews. I see this in a lot of the mocks I'm doing out there, Dave. Are guys just crazy about this guy in Philly? Jordan Matthews is going average 42nd pick in the 4th round. Are people crazy taking him that early?
They're picking the number 1 wide receiver in the Philadelphia Eagles Chip Kelly offense. So that's a simple pick. Do you want the guy who's going to catch the most passes and get the most yards in that offense, whether it's Sanchez or Bradford or whoever it was? Last year, Macklin was the beneficiary. And remember, Chip Kelly, according to LaShawn McCoy, does not value his players. Well, he showed that. Shipped off his 2 best players, his best receiver, his best running back. He felt like he had the talent. He feels like he can get it done with other guys and do the same thing. Hey, if you can't run a 3-yard slant and catch the ball and get 6 more yards, get out. If you can do it and you want too much money, you can get out too. We'll find somebody else who can do that. So I think he's got a great chance to be a serious top 10 receiver.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are the points that I keep hearing too. But how about like a guy like Andre Johnson or Martavis Bryant, Dave? I mean, wouldn't you think those guys go over Jordan Matthews? And wouldn't Matthews go like round 5 instead?
No. Matthews is going to be higher. He's going to be in your top 20. Right now, Martavis Bryant is the fastest climbing wide receiver in fantasy mock drafts. He's gone from the 6th round to the 4th round in the last 30 days. He's just skyrocketing up. I've been pumping this guy for a few weeks, and he's going to be great. He's going to be a deep threat. He's going to catch touchdowns. He's going to get plenty of yardage. And I actually go to Andre Johnson too. I love Andre Johnson. I think he's going to catch 80 balls for 1,000, 1,200 yards. He's just going to be part of a very potent offense. And T.Y. Hilton's not really a possession receiver. Andre Johnson's that big wall-em-off body possession receiver. I think he's the opposite of Reggie Wayne last year. So now you've complemented T.Y. Hilton with a true possession go-to guy, a big body that you can throw to in the red zone to get first downs. He's the opposite of the burner that T.Y. Hilton is. Reggie Wayne was the same but older, so it's a much better complement to that passing game.
All right, Quinn, you're the Steeler guy here. Andre Johnson or Martavis Bryant, give me your pick, because I'll tell you, here's one thing real quick before you answer that. Did you realize that both these guys have bye weeks later in the year? Andre Johnson has a bye week 10, Martavis Bryant bye week 11. You know that because you're a Pittsburgh fan, but tell me why Martavis Bryant would go over Andre Johnson, Quinn.
Just for touchdowns. I mean, Johnson is getting a change, so going to Indianapolis should boost his touchdowns. But, he was a 10, 12 touchdown guy. The last couple of years, he's getting 3 or 4. So even if he's getting 14, 1,500 yards, if he only has 5 or 6 touchdowns, he's not going to be up there. Now, Martavis Bryant's not going to get as many looks, but he's a bomb machine. I mean, I think he started 8 games last year and 9 and had 8 touchdowns. They were all bombs. He's not getting much possession receptions, but he's a deep hit. He's taking Mike Wallace's position when he was there. So, Bryant's going to get 10 to 13 touchdowns. He may only have 700 or 800 yards, but the touchdowns are going to be up there, and that's going to offset the yardage difference with Johnson. So I would definitely take him over Johnson.
Martavis Bryant led the NFL in yards per reception at over 21 yards a catch. He also led the league, which is interesting, in a similar stat, which is yards per pass. So yards downfield that he caught the ball. So it wasn't a lot of run after catch. He was catching a lot of balls at that 20-yard mark and farther.
Very good. No, all very good points so far. I think at this point we're going to do a little ad hoc item. Why not?
Oh.
So we're just going to throw it around right now. On my list, I want to know true or false. We'll start with you, Dave. True or false, Odell Beckham, is he where he should be on my list right now? True or false?
I like your list. I like him at 6, though, so I'll say false. I'll take Julio Jones before, and maybe even Jordy Nelson, but I'll say 6 for Odell Beckham, not 5.
Quinn?
I like him where he's at, maybe even a little higher. I mean, I just think someone that did as much as he did last year, I don't see a lot of downside, and I know Victor Cruz is going to come in, but if Victor Cruz is in, that just means they can't double-team Beckham. I mean, he was getting double teams the whole second half of last year. Nobody could stop him. He's getting scrap yardage and touchdowns. The Giants are going to be absolutely pathetic again, and they're going to be in a bunch of shootouts against Philly and Dallas and those teams. I think he's going to be better than last year. That's my opinion.
You might be right.
Yeah, I think he's going to be better than last year, and will probably creep into the top 3 or 4.
Right. I mean, based on what you saw last year, you almost have to just cover your bet and say, no matter what, I'm getting this guy on my team. I don't care what the people are saying, because let's face it, Beckham is dropping, down the rankings, if you will say. I mean, he's not dropping far, but people are this Victor Cruz thing's coming up all the time now. I keep hearing this all over the place, and if you stick to your guns and you like him, then that's a true statement. I like that. All right, give me this one. How about Alshon Jeffrey? Dave, you were high on him. I say Alshon goes a little higher on my list. I think I didn't really think that through here. Give me true or false. Is he good where I have him?
No, I probably got him closer to 10, probably behind Jordy Nelson and maybe A.J. Green. I like A.J. Green a little more. But Jeffrey's right in there, 9 or 10. He's going to be the main target. I don't trust Cutler. I don't trust that offense. But Gase will come in. They'll throw the ball. If they can make him more efficient, Jeffrey's going to be targeted a lot more than he was last year. But he's going to see some tighter coverage. If they can get Kevin White up to speed, it'll take some pressure off Jeffrey not getting the double covers.
Alshon Jeffrey,
around 10.
yeah, his bye week is number 7. Quinn, you like Alshon Jeffries? I mean, ADP says he's going 25 on my list. What do you think? Is he too low on my list? Too high? What do you think?
No, I'm going to agree with Dave. I'm going to drop him down 2 or 3. I definitely would take Jordy and Randall Cobb above him. I like him a bunch. He's one of three options between. We don't know what's going to happen with White. Bennett's going to catch a bunch of balls, and actually you could throw in Forte there, who caught 100 balls last year. I would put Evans above him, and I would put Cobb and Nelson above him. So I'd slide out 10.
Okay. All right. No, fair enough. One guy that kind of interests me on this list. I mean, hey, goes without saying, Demaryius Thomas. We got Peyton Manning, right? Peyton Manning, they're saying he's probably going to have a retractable year. He's not going to have the same numbers. But, Dave, tell me why Demaryius Thomas should stay true where he is.
Yeah, I like him right there. I think both him and Dez got the big contracts. I think they're both comfortable, hopefully not too comfortable. I trust Thomas more than I do Bryant with the money, but that's all about attitude, and I think Dez wants to win. I like both those guys where they are, actually. If it's not a PPR, I like Antonio Brown at 3 or 4. He's a little guy, so he scares me a little bit. I'll take those bigger, more reliable guys. Thomas at 2 is, at the second receiver off the board, is a great pick.
Okay, Quinn, I mean, does it go without saying, and this is kind of a silly question, but can you take that one too? Demaryius Thomas, what do you think? Is he right about where he should be?
He is. The thing that separates Thomas, for me with Bryant's the deep threat. He's got the touchdowns, but I mean, I can't tell you how many times I saw. It reminds me of the Jerry Rice, John Taylor days, where they just dump off a 10 or 12-yard pass to Demaryius, and he just goes. So he's the most versatile guy, other than Brown. He's more versatile than Brian and Calvin. Those guys are catching the 3 flies up bombs, where Demaryius is doing the crossing routes. He's doing the outs. He's doing the deep balls. He's doing everything. So I put him right up there with Antonio and Jordy as the most diversified and talented receivers in the bunch. And so his numbers, I do expect Denver's numbers to come down in Manning, but I don't think that's going to affect Demaryius at all. He's consistent. He's good game in and game out. I think he's probably the best receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, ADP has him at 10 overall selection out of the rankings, and then his bye is week 7. So yeah, I mean, hey, we don't really have to say much about him. The only guy that it seems like he's kind of getting overlooked or redheaded stepchild, right? He's got a quarterback like that, is AJ Green, and so I guess for me, I don't mind AJ so much. He's going as low as 22nd overall. He's got a bye week 7. Closing comments here, Dave, on AJ. Are you high on him? You low on him? You like him where he is? What do you think about him?
Yeah, I like him better than where you have him. I like him better than Mike Evans, and I like him better than Randall Cobb, because Cobb is definitely a number 1 receiver because he's going to be in that top 10, but I think he's the number 2 receiver on that team, and Jordy Nelson's the number 1. So before I take the number 2 receiver from the Packers, I think I'll take A.J. Green, the number 1 guy in Cincinnati. I think he's got to bounce back. I like it. He's, focal point of that offense. They just got to keep getting him the ball.
And then, Quinn, back to you. With Jeremy Hill running well, I think you mentioned you're not high on A.J. Is that right? Because you don't like Cincinnati's air attack?
I'm not, and not only am I going the opposite direction of Dave, I'm really way going the opposite. I've got them probably 14 or 15. And they just can't. The red zone play calling is absolutely pathetic. Opie just can't get the ball to anybody. He throws a nice deep ball, so he may have a couple opportunities for some bombs. But inside the 20 or 30, their offense is absolutely inept, other than pounding the ball. They got 2 great running backs. I don't see A.J. getting more than 6 or 7 touchdowns. Nothing against him. He's a stud. I just don't think he's going to get enough touchdowns or looks to put him up in that elite level at all. I would have him down at 14 or 15 overall.
Gotcha. I'm gonna throw out a guy here, Brandon Cooks. We're gonna kind of finish the show with him. Obviously, this was called the top 10 wideouts, but we have definitely picked apart in an ad hoc form, giving you some more things to think about. Here's something to think about. Brandon Cooks has a bye week 11. Okay, plays in the Dome, runs on the AstroTurf. He's going in the 3rd round in most mocks. He's number 35 on most ADP lists. All right, tell me right now, Dave. I mean, can't Cooks climb up that list based on what you saw last year? There's no Jimmy Graham.
Brandon Cooks could be very good, but it's a matter of trust. They got rid of Kenny Stills. They got rid of Graham. Somebody's got to catch the ball. They've still got Marcus Colston, who's going in like the 10th round. That guy's a value, if nothing else, because there's no one left. So, C.J. Spiller's going to catch some balls out of the backfield, pick up some of that slack. They got a new tight end who's going to have to catch 50 balls just, in his face mask where Drew Brees throws it, and even if he doesn't use his hands. So I think he's got the possibility to, catch 80, 90 balls just by being the number one receiver if he gets it to him.
Yeah, Quinn, what about you? I mean, do you like the fact that his bye week's so late? If you're a fantasy owner, you don't have to worry about replacing him. I mean, that's a long time before you have to even worry about a replacement. He's in the 3rd round. Is he too high for you or too rich for your blood? Do you like him where he is? What do you think?
I think you can get him late, particularly if you're in a 8-team league or even a 10-team league. I don't think he's going to be drafted early. A lot of people go off of last year's stats, so I do tend to agree with Dave. I think he's a very talented guy. I mean, a lot of people had him probably above all the rookies that stood out last year. He was up there to excel, and he just didn't do it. I don't know if it was the offense or what was going on. So I don't expect him to be dominant this year. I expect his stats to improve, but I don't see him as a starter on my team at any level. Unless I'm in a 12-team league, he could possibly be a sleeper for a 3rd receiver.
Solid number 2.
Yeah. Not in my book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there you have it, right? We talked about the wide receivers. You got to remember in this draft, there's running backs, there's quarterbacks. People are going to go wild Bill style, even tight ends. You got 2 of those out there, and Jimmy Graham and Rob Gronkowski. But hopefully, as you're doing your research, you're going to make the right decision on your top 10 wide receivers and who to watch out. But we appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. For Dave, Quinn, I'm Johnny B. Thanks for joining us on Mock Ad Hoc. Check us out next time.
Thanks, guys.